Camera number 404 is the point and shoot from Pentax from the early 1990s, the Pentax Espio 200. Its name has really come from the huge focal length that the camera has, 48 to 200. I don't think I could be wrong there, but I don't think I've done a point and shoot with such a long focal length. So intrigued to see how that performs. Slightly bigger as a result than perhaps most point and shoots. Probably not quite pocketable, but quite light, being made of predominantly plastic. So let's just go through some of the features of the camera. It requires a battery to operate, and we get into the battery with this compartment here, which isn't that easy, but Pentax have thought of everything almost. A little buckle here has a little pointy thing that allows us to undo the door, revealing the battery, which is a 123 3-volt battery. And we put the orientation of the plus up, and then close the door. And then if we put our film in, the camera will wind on even though the camera may be off. So that's a nice little feature there. So to turn the camera on, we do have an on position with the dial here, but we'll come back onto that in a few moments. Let's just go through some of the things on the front here. We have a pop-out flash, which can be turned off. We'll come back onto that. Then we have a little self-timer lamp. I think, if I remember rightly, he says, looking at the manual, this is the window that measures the light. We then have our viewfinder, our autofocus window. We have a, what is that? That is a focus aid. So that will light up to help focus. And then we have an infrared port for a infrared control, which I don't have, unfortunately. So that's all the features on the camera. When we turn the camera on, putting it to A, which is automatic mode, you notice the flash pops out, and the lens is on its 48mm range. Just to help us appreciate the 200mm lens, we can use this rocker switch, and by moving it right the way out, as you can see, that's quite a big lens there. So you have to hold it. I don't think there is an image stabilization. I don't know, really. I wouldn't have thought so. But just to help us appreciate those focal lengths, at 48mm, I took a picture, and hopefully I'll insert it here now to show you the 48mm focal range look, if you like, on a picture. And then when you zoom it out to the 200mm, again, I will now hopefully insert a picture that of the same image or same picture that I was taking, but with the lens at 200mm, and you'll see that it is a very useful focal range that this camera has. So something to bear in mind if that's something that is important to you. Something else that the camera features is a panorama mode. If we just open the back, which we can do by opening there, and it has a little blind, there we go, which is actually reflected in the window of the viewfinder. Very little information on the viewfinder, really. A little green focus aid, hexagonal, if you like, pops up when the camera has achieved focus. There's also a little icon for flash, and I believe there's an icon for infinity mode, which we'll come on to in a moment. Has DX coding. I'm not quite sure, I didn't check, but I would assume if the camera has, or the film cartridge has no DX coding, it will revert to something like 100. I could be wrong there. If I am, I'll try and insert that in the video now, but if not, that will be the case. So you literally just drop the cassette in, close the door, and the film is advanced. We can On the base here there is a little button that allows us to mid-roll rewind, which again is a very helpful feature, particularly if you're using different cameras like I am. Don't always go through a whole film, so that's a very useful feature. We have a very useful, sorry, I'm using that word useful a lot, so I do apologise, but it is useful, a diopter. And then turning our attention to the top plate, we have our shutter button. And then, as I say, in auto mode the camera does everything, which it does virtually on all of these modes really. We have very little control. However, we can go through the dial. We have flash mode on, which I presume, there we go. So the camera in A mode will decide whether there is sufficient light, so that's why it isn't flashing then, but it does then. Can turn the flash off. And then when we turn the next increment on the dial, we have a slow speed sync with the flash on. And then the B is bulb with the flash off, and then B with the flash on. Okay, so that's all the features on the dial there. But we're not finished. We have a red eye reduction button. So when we are on flash, that can be combined with that. Turn that off. And then on the right hand side we have our autofocus modes. It has, according to the manual, a 5-point focus mode. But we can choose an infinity mode with this button. So presumably the camera will choose apertures around sort of f16 so that everything will be in focus, I presume. And then when we press the button again, we can select spot autofocus. So very helpful for maybe portraits or things like that, where or perhaps an area where we want to focus specifically on a point. That's a very good to have. And then back to 5-point focus mode. We have self-timer, a remote control, and then I thought this was a continuous mode, but it isn't. It's actually multiple exposure. So that's nice to see included in that. So it really is feature rich, this camera, and I'm intrigued to go out and take the images, which I have done, and we'll see those in a few moments. So I've gone through opening the film door. So that's pretty much it really, as far as the camera goes. The Pentax Espio 200, which has been camera number 404.